Hi there, welcome to iTWire TV. Today we're speaking with Tanium CIO Public Sector, Chris Cruz. Thank you, Chris, for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, so for those who don't know, Tanium aims to provide certainty in uncertain times, and it's the industry's first and only provider of converged endpoint management. And actually, I've just learned from Chris that Chris served under three American Californian governors, including, of course, the governor. So, yes, so you obviously come with a lot of background in public sector, hence your role at Tanium.
Well, David, obviously I have a lot of stories to tell in my political life, and I think, that's served me well. My time of 30 years in government, serving with many different C-level executives, I think has helped me transition into the private sector life here and hit the ground running, so to speak. So I'm very happy with the skills, the knowledge I was able to attain in those persistent and prospective roles.
That's wonderful. No, thank you. So, Chris, I guess for a business that hasn't worked with Tanium before, what are your key products and offerings? What can you tell me about Tanium?
Well, Tanium is a platform, David, and the things that I could say really about quickly around Tanium, it's all about visibility management, control, and remediation. I think that's important on a single platform. We provide real-time data visibility across the enterprise network that allows for network transparency, improves patch efficiency and effectiveness, allows for third-party patching with critical products. And one of the other areas that we really do with Tanium here in terms of that is we align that with a strategy. We have a transformation and innovation strategy that we align our products to fit certain criteria. Now that cybersecurity is our new World War III, in essence, we have a framework that aligns here in the US with the Biden administration's executive order, along with the states. And we're doing the same thing here in Australia with the Essential Eight and working through those particular processes to align back with those business processes to drive transformation within what I call a SecOps organization and platform. And we're working on those things right now as a priority. We're also doing asset management, software reclamation. So we're addressing assets, we're finding assets, we're passing those. In essence, what Tanium does and ensure that every door into your network is locked. And that's the most important thing that I want to leave the audience with, is having that applicable ability to do that in real time with management visibility, control remediation, and assessing your risk scores and moderation capability.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess what are some of the most recent improvements or innovations you've been making in your offerings?
So Tanium has developed a new dashboarding capability that really, for executives like me at the CIO or CISO level, that really helps manage risk. It takes all the information that we took in real time and puts that into nice dashboard and metrics. So when C-level executives or boards of directors or supervisors or politicians ask you what your risk score is or what your risk threshold is for your respective organization, you can provide that level of detail in real time. And today, it's an ounce of prevention is really worth a pound of cure. We need to have proactive mechanisms in place to manage cybersecurity. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when everyone's going to be hit. No one is indiscriminate of these issues now in the cybersecurity arena, whether you be a small, medium, or large organization. Proactive planning and comprehensive planning does lead to success. And where Tanium rolls up that particular data and that ability helps you manage and lower your IT hygiene and lower your risk score. I would also say the important thing too with Tanium is having a software bill of materials in a way that you can manage and document incidents and issues in your organization within our software and platform, so those items don't get repeated again. So it mitigates the type of work that already an overburdened security organization finds itself in on a day in and day out basis. A couple other areas too that are really important to us is our new partnerships with Microsoft. Tanium now integrates with Microsoft Sentinel to address SIM data, security event management data, to send that to a security operations center in a readily available process that can be read. So time of market, speeding up, partnering with some of the most critical partners on the planet is very important to us. We're also looking at Windows Defender and integrating with their Windows Defender product with Tanium's Enforce and Comply. And last but not least, our patching capability. The ability to enhance and effectuate Microsoft's SCCM capabilities is really true, and an area now that we're really proactively doing right now with a lot of our customers in the government space. I would also add into, David, our ServiceNow integration is very important as well. We feed into most of the desktop support systems in ServiceNow. ServiceNow has a big footprint in government, no different here in Australia than the US or really across the world for that matter, and providing real-time data visibility to help make informed decisions. So we're seeing those efficiencies and effectiveness and platform capabilities enhancements that are making Tanium actually a more true and respectable product every day.
Yeah, fantastic. No, there's some exciting and great things. I guess going back a little, you've talked about, Biden executive order, you've talked about US government, things like that. I guess for some of us who, I must confess, are a bit ignorant or unaware of what's happening in the US, I suppose, I appreciate the perspective you have, the global perspective that you offer in Tanium. And I guess I'm keen to know what Australia and the wider APAC region can learn from the US when it comes to cybersecurity and governance.
Yeah, that's a great question, David. I first by qualifying that to say cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility now. It's very important to get your C-level executives on board with your organization, defining a common standardized security structure for what you do, making sure your employees understand the importance of cyber hygiene and emailing. So if there are ransomware attacks or DDoS attacks, they understand the education and training around that. Those are really important. I think best practices and lessons learned that we can take from what we're doing in the US and apply here in Australia and across the Asian continent. I would also say developing a corporate governance plan and having a standardized framework that integrates your security and operations organization today is very important. You need one platform, one data to have a single source of truth, so to speak, and an application to provide you with that information. I would also say too, developing a centralized repository for cybersecurity incidents. So you can share that information with your respected agencies or continent, that you have a standard approach. So when you see ransomware attacks or incidents come up, you know how to mitigate and manage those as they come up next time, and ensure you're not repeating the, the lessons or the horrors of the past in terms of that particular approach. I would also look at developing a singleized platform. I think it's really important today that we have an integrated platform, again, that has API and automation to a lot of our tools. A lot of us in government struggled through what I call the Baskin Robbins approach of tool sprawl. We had 31 flavors of ice cream. Well, we had 31 flavors of tools in our box. So I think stopping that type of proliferation and going to a standard platform is something that Tanium can provide from a SecOps perspective, that really integrates your security and operations teams, and getting those folks to sit down with a seat at the table and discuss roles and responsibilities and a defined approach to dealing with cybersecurity. I think those are the biggest areas that we can learn from in terms of that process. And again, generating standardized tool industry best practices and lessons learned around contingency planning and around a common approach to doing business, and having a common cybersecurity strategy that all of your agencies underneath you abide by, with some alignment with particular and key requirements. Those are all areas I think that we can transfer and transition from what we're doing in the US to what Australia is doing. And what we're seeing so far in Australia, and we have the executive order in the US that California, where I came from, has CalSecure. Australia now has the Essential 8, which is a very alignable process with what the Biden administration is doing. So Australia has taken a kind of a paper out of the checkbook, so to speak, and defining some core processes that make sense here, and having a common security strategy across Australia here in the government and financial institutions. So I'm very excited to see that level of maturity being adopted.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What about going wider? What about global trends? What sort of global trends are you seeing in cybersecurity?
I think what we're seeing too is the rise of automotive hacking, embedded chips in automotive trucks and industries in that area. So far, they've been relatively obscure from security incidents, but we're seeing a lot of issues and incidents happening in the automotive industry. We're seeing a potential of also obviously AI and reducing exploits, and artificial intelligence as well, reducing exploits, looking at newer and improved technology to come in and helping manage you and helping detect potential exploits in your environment and network. We're seeing that mobile devices are the new target as well. Everyone's got a mobile device now, and as opposed to just targeting the network, everyone is going down to that point of origin within that mobile device. Cloud is also potentially vulnerable as well. No matter what type of cloud solution you have, you need to make sure there's encryption at transit, encryption at rest, and you're managing, mitigating, and monitoring those types of visibilities in particular areas. And last but not least, I think the continued proliferation on data breaches and the focus of those data breaches and the lessons learned that come out of those, because those are industry best practices we can share with the entire community and the entire continent on managing this. Because cybersecurity, I believe, David, is really our new World War III. It's something that's going to continue to happen for the foreseeable future, and we need to take a proactive approach to a reactive crisis if we're going to be successful.
Yes. No, interesting and very sober thoughts. You mentioned a couple of times, Chris, about Tanium integrating security and operations. I suppose, can you elaborate on why it's important to integrate security and operations into one program?
I think it's really important because we have a lot of redundancy, David, in terms of tools in our environments. All of us do in government. I was no different when I was in those particular roles. We want to reduce manual duplicity. We want to promote a single platform structure for, again, standardized governance and a common security posture across the entire organization. We can't continue to do shadow IT, where organizations are managing and buying their own tools, even though they might be part of the federated network. You have no level of visibility. So having that common approach where the CIO and CISO have a seat at the table with our tools and giving them that real-time visibility of tracking everything that hits the particular network through our agent, managing and tracking every asset that comes into your organization is keenly and so critical in today's proactive cybersecurity monitoring and approach. And that's where Tanium comes in to address cybersecurity and recognizing that these are the types of things you want to do to manage and address your cyber hygiene up front. And those are the things that Tanium provides within our tool set and giving you that visibility and your risk threshold of where you're at. So you're constantly monitoring your organization in a proactive mode rather than trying to do care and feeding and crisis management in a reactive mode where an incident or ransomware attack has already happened and you're just triaging the situation. You don't want to be there because it's a disruption in business and it sows public distrust. And so that's where Tanium comes in to give you that level of management visibility and remediation and key and critical decision making at the right time.
Yeah, awesome. And I suppose, what are you finding when you look at organizations? What are they missing often when it comes to addressing cybersecurity within their company or business or organization?
I think really it's about education, training, and awareness. I see really a failure to, warn employees of threats and those constant threats. And how do you go about doing that? So making sure that you have a data repository in place. More data breaches now due to remote work. The four walls of the building, it used to be when we managed from a network, you could manage within those four walls. That attack perimeter has changed. It's changed for all of us now that people are working in a virtual environment. So how do we address that? Ransomware attacks are on the rise. Missing security patches. It's very important. It's fundamental 101 that you manage and do regular patching to increase your cyber hygiene in organizations. And a lot of agencies are struggling with ongoing patching, which ensures or which causes backdoors to be unlocked. And that's where the cyber hackers come into that one backdoor. So improving your patch efficacy is extremely important. Bring your own device. A lot of organizations back in the early 2000s, a lot of organizations to bring your own device and access the network of your respective organization. So how do you get the appropriate level of security around that? So we see a lot of issues around there. As I mentioned previously, no contingency plans. If an incident happens, what are you going to do to ensure that those services are not disrupted, those key critical services to your constituents and customers? Lack of a cybersecurity program. People don't have a cyber program in place. They don't have a cyber strategy that lays out what are the fundamental things that you do across your entire organization. And last but not least is, you have to treat security not like an IT issue, but a financial issue, because that's what's most important. It's driving financial distress in organizations. It's just not another technology problem. And then really too, the lack of representation on security boards. We must fix that to ensure the CIO and the CISO has a seat at the table that's advising the board, advising your board of supervisors, advising a governor if you're in government, or foreign minister, whatever your particular role is. You need to be a part of that entity's organizational governance process, driving, implementing, and recommending changes to make sure that your organization has the necessary failover capabilities in place.
Yes, no, very serious topics. Yeah, I appreciate that practical guidance, and I like what you say that we came from. So we used to talk about the network perimeter, but I suppose these days, as you say, the whole world is your perimeter. There is no perimeter. So
Absolutely.
I guess these are really serious topics and things that companies can't ignore. So, Chris, if let's say an enterprise end user wanted to engage with Tanium, what is the best way to approach your business?
Well, Tanium has a worldwide presence. I mean, that's a good thing. We're prevalent here in Australia. We have many client reps here and resellers and folks like that they can reach out to. But I think the first order of magnitude is reaching out to our Tanium website, finding out who those contact people are in your respective area. We have a portal that you can go into and ask information, and we'll get back to you immediately. We're really good at customer service and providing a level of expediency to what we do. And I think that would be the first order of magnitude, is to get a hold of somebody and they'll get back to you immediately.
Excellent. That's been very helpful, Chris. I appreciate everything you've said. You've certainly been very educational and informative, and mixed valuable information with practical guidance as well. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Great to be here. Hope to be back again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that's Tanium CIO Public Sector, Chris Cruz. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.